What if one of the most famous canyons on Earth was hiding a secret that no official record could fully explain? For more than a century, travelers, researchers, and curious minds have whispered about a hidden chamber somewhere beneath the layered red walls of the Grand Canyon, a place said to contain relics from a civilization history books never mentioned. The story begins not with an ancient legend, but with a single newspaper article printed in 1909 that would go on to spark one of the most persistent mysteries in American exploration. What was supposedly found there? Who claimed to find it? And why does the tale still refuse to fade more than 100 years later? To understand it, we have to step back into the desert heat of early 20th century Arizona, when the American West was still being mapped, measured, and mythologized in equal measure. The story traces back to the Phoenix Gazette, a newspaper that on April 5, 1909, published an article describing an expedition led by a man named G. Kincaid, working under the direction of a Smithsonian Institution archaeologist referred to only as Professor S.A. Jordan. According to the article, Kincaid had been navigating the Colorado River when he stumbled upon a cave entrance high above the waterline, accessible only by a difficult climb through solid rock. Inside, the article claimed, was a vast underground network of chambers, some natural and some seemingly carved by human hands, stretching for what the piece described as thousands of feet into the earth. The description painted a picture unlike anything associated with the indigenous peoples known to have lived in and around the canyon for generations. The Gazette article described artifacts unlike typical southwestern archaeology: copper implements, stone statues seated in poses reminiscent of ancient Tibetan or Egyptian art, hieroglyphic inscriptions on the walls, and even mummified remains wrapped in a manner the writer compared to Egyptian burial practices. The piece suggested that the findings pointed to a lost civilization with possible ties to ancient Egypt or Asia, a claim that, if true, would have upended the accepted understanding of human migration and settlement in North America. It was a sensational story, printed at a time when newspapers regularly ran dramatic, loosely sourced accounts to capture public attention, and it did exactly that, spreading quickly through word of mouth and reprint. There was just one persistent problem. No verifiable evidence has ever surfaced to confirm that this expedition, or the men said to have led it, actually existed. The Smithsonian Institution, when later asked directly about the claims, stated that it has no record of an archaeologist named S.A. Jordan, nor any documentation of a Grand Canyon expedition matching description in the 1909 article. No photographs, no specimens, and no official reports were ever filed or archived, which is unusual given how meticulously the Smithsonian cataloged expeditions of that era. Historians who have examined early 20th century Arizona newspapers point out that the Gazette, like many regional papers of time, occasionally published exaggerated or entirely fictional adventure stories to boost circulation, a common journalistic practice long before modern standards of verification took hold. Despite the lack of corroborating evidence, the story did not disappear. It resurfaced decades later, gaining new life as conspiracy culture grew in the mid to late 20th century, especially after the rise of alternative history publishing and, eventually, internet forums where the original newspaper text could be copied and shared endlessly without context. Believers in the tale often point to the sheer size and remoteness of the Grand Canyon as reason enough to suspect that something could still be hidden within it. The canyon stretches roughly 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and over a mile deep in places, carved over millions of years by the relentless force of the Colorado River cutting through layers of sedimentary rock. It is true that the canyon does contain real caves, some of them extensive and largely unexplored due to the difficulty and danger of accessing them. Stanton's Cave, located near River Mile 31, is one of the more thoroughly studied examples. In archaeological work, there has uncovered items such as split twig figurines crafted by ancient hunter-gatherer peoples, dated to roughly 3,000 to 4,000 years old. These figurines, shaped from single willow or cottonwood twigs into forms resembling deer or bighorn sheep, are genuinely significant archaeological finds, offering real insight into the lives of early inhabitants of the region, even though they bear no resemblance to the Egyptian-style artifacts described in the 1909 newspaper account. The broader archaeological record of the Grand Canyon area is rich, but it tells a different story than the one the Gazette spun. The canyon and its surrounding plateaus were home to the Ancestral Puebloan people, as well as the Cohonina culture, both of whom left behind granaries, dwellings, pottery, and rock art dating back over 1,000 years. Present-day tribes, including the Havasupai, Hualapai, Navajo, Hopi, and Zuni, maintain deep ancestral and spiritual connections to the canyon. Connections that are documented through oral tradition, archaeological continuity, and centuries of recorded history. None of these well-established cultural histories involve Egyptian hieroglyphics or Asian religious statuary, which is part why professional archaeologists have consistently treated the 1909 claims with skepticism rather than curiosity. Geologists add another layer of context that is often left out of the more sensational retellings. The rock layers exposed throughout the Grand Canyon range in age from about 270 million years old near the rim to nearly 2 billion years old at the base, representing an almost unimaginable span of Earth's geological history. Caves within this terrain form primarily through the slow dissolution of limestone by water over thousands of years, a natural process well understood by karst geologists. While undiscovered caves certainly exist within such a vast and rugged landscape, the idea of a fully furnished ancient hall filled with statues and preserved mummies runs contrary to everything known about how these cave systems form and what conditions will be required to preserve organic material inside them for centuries. Adding to the skepticism is the simple matter of access and oversight. The Grand Canyon has been a national monument since 1908 and a national park since 1919. Placing it under federal protection and increasingly rigorous scientific study throughout the 20th century. Modern archaeological surveys, aerial mapping, and geological research have covered enormous portions of the canyon and its side canyons, and National Park Service has stated it has no record supporting the existence of the chamber described in the Gazette story. If such an extraordinary find had genuinely been made and later concealed, it would represent one of the most improbable cover-ups in the history of American science, requiring coordination across generations of park officials, geologists, and federal agencies without a single verified leaked document or physical trace ever emerging. Still, the story endures, and understanding why may be just as interesting as the original claim itself. Human beings are drawn to the idea of hidden histories, ancient connections between distant civilizations, and knowledge suppressed by official institutions. The Grand Canyon, with its overwhelming scale and its ability to make visitors feel small against deep time, is a natural setting for such stories to take root. When a place already inspires awe, it becomes easy to imagine that something even more extraordinary might be tucked away within it, waiting to be uncovered by the right person at the right moment. The 1909 article tapped directly into that psychological pull, and later retellings have only strengthened it by presenting the original unverified newspaper piece as though it were a leaked government record. Respected voices in archaeology and public history have periodically addressed the legend, generally noting that the burden of evidence lies with those making extraordinary claims, not with institutions that decline to confirm stories lacking any supporting documentation. Writers covering southwestern archaeology and canyon history have pointed out that treating a single anonymously sourced newspaper article as historical fact ignores basic standards of verification that any legitimate discovery would require, including peer-reviewed publication, physical specimens, and photographic evidence, none of which has ever surfaced in over a century. This does not mean the Grand Canyon has given up all its secrets. Remote side canyons and undocumented caves likely still hold archaeological material yet to be studied, but that possibility is very different from confirming the specific, elaborate scene described in 1909. There is also a practical dimension to the mystery that rarely makes it into the more dramatic retellings, and that is the sheer physical difficulty of the terrain the Gazette article describes. Kincaid supposedly located a cave entranced some 1,500 feet above the river and roughly 2,000 feet below the canyon rim, a position that would place it in some of the most unstable and difficult to reach rock formations in the entire canyon system. Professional canyoneers and geologists who have studied the described location note that the rock layers in that general area are composed largely of the Redwall limestone and Mauve limestone formations, both of which are prone to sheer cliffs, loose scree, and unstable overhangs that make sustained excavation or habitation extremely challenging without modern equipment. An expedition of the scale described, one capable of hauling artifacts, mapping thousands of feet of tunnels, and documenting statues and mummified remains, would have required resources and follow-up visits that left no trace in any historical record. It is also worth noting how differently institutions behave when a genuine discovery of this magnitude actually occurs. When Howard Carter uncovered the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt in 1922, the find was documented extensively through photographs, detailed inventories, and international press coverage that continued for years, eventually filling museum catalogs and academic journals still referenced today. Real archaeological breakthroughs tend to generate an expanding trail of evidence over time, not a single unverified newspaper column that vanishes from the historical record almost immediately after publication. The contrast between how the Kincaid story was reported, with no named institution taking responsibility for it, and how legitimate finds are typically handled, is one of the clearest signals researchers point to when explaining why the tale has never been taken seriously within mainstream archaeology, even as it has thrived in popular imagination. The persistence of the legend has also been shaped by the growth of alternative history media, beginning in the 1970s, when authors and documentary producers began revisiting obscure historical claims and presenting them to audiences hungry for stories that challenge conventional academic narratives. Television programs and later online video content frequently reproduce the original 1909 text without additional context, often framing the Smithsonian's denial itself as suspicious rather than as a straightforward statement of an absent historical record. This pattern, in which the absence of evidence is reinterpreted as evidence of concealment, appears across many similar legends, and is a recurring feature of how unverified stories gain staying power long after their original claims have been examined and found wanting by historians and scientists. What makes this story worth telling is not a hidden Egyptian tomb beneath the Colorado River, but the way a single piece of imaginative journalism managed to outlive its own newspaper, its own century, and every attempt to verify it, becoming a permanent fixture of American folklore. It reveals something about how legends form, how a compelling narrative can travel further than the facts meant to correct it,